Good morning everyone, Prime here, and today we're going to be going over the new Smite reveal trailer for Hera. Been a couple of trailers for Hera, and a lot of the new gods now seem to be getting a trailer or two before they're actually launched. So yeah, we're going to be talking about all the lore implications behind the trailer, sort of analysing it in that way. So yeah, let's get into this. So the trailer is courtesy of IGN, so thank you IGN. And as it starts, we can sort of see Hera in this sort of perfect state of power, a sort of sphere of control. Like, she's not really taking in her surroundings. She didn't even realize that Zeus had left, right? And when she realizes that there's sort of a banging on the door, she's like, yeah, is this really important? Like, sort of like a whatever look on her face. It's pretty. I thought that was a nice touch. Whilst Zeus is gone and conducting this war with the other gods that are in Smite, you'd think someone would need to manage things back home in Greece to manage the worshippers and keep all of them happy, and I suppose that's what Hera's been doing all of this time. Hera doesn't necessarily need to provide a reason or a backstory as to what the gods have been doing prior to being introduced into Smite. What they're doing, whether they're not fighting on the battleground, I guess that's another question entirely, but I suppose for Hera, she's been maintaining things back in the Greek portion of the world. And it's kind of funny when Hera looks over at Zeus's throne and she sees the note that he's out for lunch. And this is really nice. Like, you have the peacock having that sort of, that son of a sort of expression on his face, and you have the lion with the, yeah, we all know where Zeus is, sort of expression on his face. So that was really subtle, but really nice on Hera's part. It's kind of funny. I get that this was probably just to show Zeus being Zeus. Right, but, there seems to be a lot of women that haven't been punished or touched by Hera, so maybe Hera doesn't really do that, or she's not as diligent with her punishing other women duties, punishing them for sleeping around with Zeus, of course. Which I suppose is kind of sad, because when you take away that aspect of Hera's character, you take away the part of her taking out her anger on the women that slept with Zeus, then it's kind of, she becomes a lot more of a tragic character, I think. Because then, she's not ruining the lives of the women who really, in some of the cases, didn't even know who they were sleeping with half the time. Which, I mean, is arguably quite questionable, but when you consider the sheer amount of power that the person they were doing it with, I suppose they didn't really have many options, and I'm assuming it was mostly consensual, I think, at least among the mortal women. The goddesses, I question that, but for the most part I'd like to think Zeus did things consensually. So Hera doesn't seem to be all about that punishing the other mortals or goddesses that decide to, well, really betray her, whether they're realizing that they're doing it or not. So that might come through within the Smite story, it might not, but it could also be just because there are certain things that High-Res can't really dive into, because, restrictions, limited, you can't really explore all of this stuff in a game that you're going to be marketing to younger audiences. So it makes sense as to why High-Res would change things up, or not have Zeus or Hera do certain things, Because yeah, some of the things that Hera did to these women, quite vile. As the trailer progresses, Hera casually just walks down from her throne room, deals with whatever problem. She summons Argus, which I guess if you were paying attention to data mining, you'd know that Argus probably going to drop down from the sky, like a cool sort of, there are so many references they're going to make, but yeah, jumping from the sky. Now, coming on to the current story of Smite, we know that in the Odyssey, Hera will be trying to gather gods and forces to push back a greater force that's threatening the gods. In other words, Hera is going to be playing a good character, morally good character, I'm guessing. So yes, all of that baggage in her backstory and lore probably won't show up in Smite, now that I think about it. And also, Hera-Res, of course, hasn't used all of the gods that are in Smite in the story, not by a long shot. So there's plenty of options for gods and goddesses that they can use in the story, and maybe we might get one or two more god releases, who knows? I mean, the way that they released gods recently, they had, and who knows, you might get one or two more god releases as well before the year's done. After all, we are just in September right now, so there's at least 3 months, so perhaps 2 more god releases? Of course, the way High-Res is releasing gods now, it seems like it's taking them a lot more work, and they are putting more work into these god releases as well. Whereas before, like a year or two ago, it was literally just, new god might show up on data mining, some weeks or a month or so later, we get the reveal trailer, or, we get the little reveal that High-Res does, and then we get the god like a week later or so in-game. And that cycle was repeated for a few years, I guess. And, well, yeah, the way High-Res does things now, I'm guessing it builds more hype for the gods and goddesses. And of course, the community is a lot more happy because if we don't like a design of a god, or we're not happy about something about the god, high-res can more easily try to make everyone happy. So I suppose overall this is a really nice system for everyone. I suppose you'd only have a problem with this system if you're not happy with how frequently we're getting gods, because I suppose, yes, like previously we were getting a lot more gods. This year we've had about what? We've had Cerberus, Achilles, we're going to have Hera, we've had Baron Samedi, we've had Chernobog, and we've had Pele. I'm not sure that we've had any more gods this year, but that's 6 gods, and usually in a normal year, you might get like, 9 or 10? We might get one more or less every month, and there might be that one month where high-res kind of skips a few god releases. So anywhere from 11 to 9 gods in a year. So moving on to the story itself, we know that Zeus is still dead, and the little Odyssey chapter that was leaked on data mining goes over Hera in the throne room with 2 gods, just before she's about to leave out to sort of start her quest to gather the gods to help her fight back the new forces of Ragnarok or the new forces of Chaos, or, as part of the story. Hera is most likely going to be very different from what she was in terms of her lore. I'm fine with Hera adapting Hera's character to give us something new and fresh, lore-wise, or just, as far as the game's lore, instead of just a carbon copy of what she was from Greek mythology. Because she definitely seems, overall, from what we've been given, a lot less vengeful and a lot less sort of angry and full of negativity than her mythological side, her mythological counterpart. Or at the very least, she's a lot better at dealing with those emotions and not necessarily just acting instantaneously on impulse. And I suppose part of the reason why she acted the way she did to those mortal women is because, well, she's a queen, she's a divine, and her divine husband is going around and messing around with mere mortals. I suppose in that position, from that perspective, yeah, she has a right to be very mad and very upset. Not just from the perspective of it's dangerous for her relationship with Zeus, but also from the perspective of it threatens her position of power. She could have potentially been replaced by any one of these mortal women that Zeus decided to, fall head over heels for. That was probably a concern in her mind as well. And Hera really loves power. What is one of the most acknowledged positions of power? Royalty. So losing that position definitely would be a very horrible, avoid at all cost situation for Hera. And that's still clearly going to be a concern for Smite Hera as well, because she's still ordering some guards to protect the throne room at all costs. Though it does beg the question, where were Hera and those guards and any other significant members of the Greek pantheon whilst Zeus was getting slaughtered? There was only one throne in the throne room that Zeus was occupying when he was murdered by Loki and Alquang and Hel. So is it the case that there's a Roman throne and a Greek throne and they sort of interchange between the two? Or did they somehow have a remodeling job going on? Or was it just a different throne room? I suppose Hera doesn't necessarily have to answer that question, but it does seem a bit, question. I'm not saying it's a plot hole, but definitely something that should be addressed. Now, in terms of the actual allies Hera has left to recruit, I'm thinking that probably quite a few gods from the Celtic pantheon, and considering the fact that, well, I say quite a few gods, there are only 4 gods from the pantheon, we're probably going to see some Celtic pantheon gods if Hera is still going to use gods that exist in the game and not solely just use new god releases when they say, reinforcements. Because we've not really seen much from the Celtic gods, but unlike a pantheon like the Chinese pantheon, who we're about to talk about in a second, the Celtic pantheon seem like they're beings who can operate more independently than a pantheon like, say, the Greek pantheon or the Chinese pantheon. So there's a higher chance that more of those gods and goddesses are alive, or in fact all of them could potentially still be alive and well. Well might be a stretch, but, alive, ready to fight, be useful. Whereas the Chinese pantheon, of all of this chaos happening across the world, there's a chance that they may be reserved and unaffected, like the Japanese pantheon of gods very well might be as well. After all, if Hera is still okay and her throne room is still in a very respectable divine state, the issues that were developing around the world might not necessarily have affected the Chinese gods all that poorly. Or they could be facing a situation similar to the Norse gods, in which they're more or less completely KO'd. We're not too sure. We haven't been given that much information, that much of a status update on a lot of the other pantheons. So we're just not sure. Assuming that something like that did happen and the Chinese pantheon was to lose, resulting in the deaths of members of the Chinese pantheon, most of them would probably be gone. Guan Yu, Erlong Shen, Jing Wei, Jing Qian. Because a lot of them have these sorts of mentalities of not giving up, not surrendering, those sorts of things, that sort of pride. So most of the pantheon, through one way or another, would be stubborn enough to probably be killed if there were no other choice. Sent to the underworld, locked away, you know, that sort of thing. Probably not going to be much aid from the Chinese pantheon. I mean, there are certain characters like, say, Zhong Hui or Sun Wukong who really don't know what they're doing, or what the deal is with them. So there's a chance that we could see some, but I wouldn't expect much from the Chinese pantheon. And in terms of new gods, Hera's semi-teased Yomagunda, right? They had that little image on their page where they did the updates for the new patch, and you kind of see a giant snaky being, and, well, there aren't many beings who that could be. It could be someone from Slavic mythology. In fact, to be honest, I think I'd prefer it to be a certain someone from Slavic mythology rather than Yomagunda, unless they do something like they did with Ao Kuang, where they gave Ao Kuang like a normal human appearance, a human, like, usual deity-looking appearance that was humanoid, and then in his ult, he turns into his large character model, true form. Of course, Yomagunda is still bigger than Ao Kuang, so yeah. But I have a video about, how high-res can do Yomagunda just as planned, so yeah. I suppose this is also a nice opportunity for high-res to explore more Norse characters that they haven't introduced, but just because this is Ragnarok and all of these things are happening, there's a very easy chance for high-res to use a lot of Norse gods. Doesn't mean they can't use chaotic gods from other pantheons. So what gods do you think high-res should actually use for this Ragnarok event? Because they have a lot of options, there's plenty of choice. Are they going to release new pantheons? I don't know, it could be a nice surprise, and there's definitely time left in the year for something like that. But yes, who do you want to see in the game? Let me know in the comment section below. And what do you think of Hera in this new reveal? Do you like her design? Are you unhappy? Or pretty happy with what we have? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, because it really does help me out. And until the next video, very good day. I'm in Prime, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.